This is the campaign. That's
Okay.
Lee Hirsch right behind me.
Yeah, I got it.
He wants everyone to sign this.
Sorry, Lindsay, let's go. Lindsay, now.
Okay, can everyone please grab their seats? We're going to get started very shortly.
Hey, good day to you. I'm real excited about this.
Awesome. This is your moment.
It's my moment. It's
fun.
our moment.
Absolutely.
He was very familiar.
My one ask to you is, you are like such an incredible convener. The main goal of all of this is that we get the biggest possible participation.
Perfect.
So if you can, to the extent that you can,
I'll do
let's
it. You
say,
do it.
fill it out today,
Yeah, we're supposed to.
right now,
I got it.
that'll go to, we walk out of here with 80, 100% participation.
You got it.
That's the national story.
I just want to hug you.
Hey,
wanna hug
wait
you.
a minute. You didn't return my text last night. Come on.
Thank
Wait,
you.
hold on.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I wouldn't be here for it. Thank you.
And my speech is all about
Well, you was perfect. These mayors are fire on education. You started this crowd. It's awesome, man. No, but your
but
leadership.
you know what everybody says?
I will. I have a long plane ride.
Swear to God.
All right, everyone. Good morning. Please take your seats. We are going to get started in 1 minute. As everyone's getting seated, I want to remind the mayors one housekeeping item. Please sign up for traveling workshops. They'll take place Monday afternoon, so please sign up at the end of the day. You can do so at the host city hospitality desk in the registration area. All right, looks like we have everyone seated. During this morning's session, you're going to hear from a variety of speakers on different topics. And if you listen closely, you'll find our country's public schools play a role in every single thing that we do. Whether it's combating bullying in our schools or preparing our young adults to compete for jobs, education touches everything. It's for this reason that our conference leads the charge when it comes to improving educational outcomes. Because it's cross-cutting. It's an issue that cuts across every single thing that we do. And every mayor knows you cannot have a great city without great schools. To begin this session, I would like to give special thanks and recognition to our title sponsor, City. They have a strong tradition in working with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and this year they're one of our platinum sponsors. Can we give them one round of applause for their commitment? Here on behalf of City is Edward Schuyler, Executive Vice President of Global Public Affairs. Mr. Schuyler leads external and internal communications, governmental affairs, branding, corporate sponsorship, and the City Foundation. He also shares a leadership of investor relations. Before beginning city, Mr. Schuyler worked in New York City City Hall under Rudolph Giuliani, our former mayor. Mr. Schuyler worked as deputy press secretary. He later served as press secretary and then communication director for Mayor Bloomberg in his first term. Mayor Bloomberg appointed Edward Schuyler as deputy mayor of New York City for administration and later deputy mayor of operations, making him the youngest deputy mayor. Please help me in joining Mr. Schuyler to the podium.
Thank you, President Johnson. You know, in Texas, saying President Johnson makes me think about, well, forget it.
You're not getting off to a good start.
We are really happy to be here with you. It's really fun to be, back with mayors. It is, as President Johnson said, I worked for two and spent 4 years as deputy mayor in New York City, and it was a privilege. And I have a deep appreciation and respect for your work, because around the country, it's the mayors that get things done. On the other hand, Washington gets more and more bogged down in partisan battles, while we have problems that are crying out for solutions. You look at immigration, sustainability, and don't get me started on gun violence. Last week there was yet another school shooting outside of Portland. I know Mayor Hales is here with us. Certainly offer my condolences to him and that community. There is clearly a growing disconnect between Washington and the cities across the country, and I think the public's tired of it. But it's in the cities where the rubber hits the road and where partisanship yields to practicality. After all, it's the nation's mayors who are on the ground, delivering services, solving challenges, whether they're public safety, education, infrastructure, or job creations. You don't have the luxury of playing politics. People are relying on you to improve their lives. But rather than harp on what Washington isn't doing, I'd like to focus on the critical role cities are playing to solve some of our most difficult problems. Cities have always been incubators of innovation, creativity, and growth. And today, their importance is greater than ever and will only continue to rise. In 1990, 40% of the world's population lived in cities. Today, that number is up to 50%, and we project by 2050, that number will jump to 70%. If the United Nations is right, and there'll be 10 billion people alive in the world in 2050, that means 7 billion people will live in cities. With that growth will come increasing share of global GDP. But that growth is not going to be spread equally. Jobs and capital, both human and financial, will be fought over, and competition between cities will be fiercer than ever. My company commissioned The Economist to conduct research that ranked the cities according to their competitiveness and made projections about how those rankings will change in the year 2025. The finding from the report was that cities that are making the investments focused on the future are going to be the most competitive. And emerging market countries have cities which are moving up the fastest. Sao Paulo, Mumbai, Incheon. That should get all of our attention, since American cities generate 90% of our country's GDP. Our national economy is dependent on how your cities grow. In light of my experience in city government and my current role at City, I'd like to discuss two ideas which I believe can help cities better serve their citizens and make sure they don't fall behind in this increasingly competitive world. The first is that cities are tied together in a network that works best when the different nodes interact and share good ideas. Cities may not all have the same exact problems, but you have more in common than what separates you. So my advice is simple. Steal each other's ideas. I'll put it another way. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Let me give you an example. First city in the United States which banned smoking was Aspen in 1985. Beverly Hills joined them a couple of years later. In 2003, my old boss signed into law a ban of smoking in restaurants and bars. He'd come under a great deal of public pressure to reverse course. Many bar and restaurant owners thought a smoking ban would cripple their businesses, and smokers saw the measurement as an infringement of their personal freedom. But 10 years later, the smoking ban is celebrated as a great public health success. Fewer New Yorkers smoke, life expectancy has increased, the hospitality industry is thriving, and tourists are visiting in record numbers. Once governments saw it could be successful in such a large urban laboratory, other cities began to adopt it as quickly as dominoes could fall. Now, 500 cities around the world have enacted similar bans. The actions of city after city have led to real change, and it's helping people live longer, healthier lives. It may sound idealistic, but the collective actions of mayors truly changed the world. Another example from New York was shortly after Mayor Bloomberg was sworn in, he looked at a New York City phone book and found 27 pages listing 4,000 New York City services. Luckily, New York didn't have to start from scratch to find a solution, because in 1996, Baltimore had launched 311. Chicago, San Jose, and Dallas followed suit, and now 70 cities, including New York, have a similar system. And we shouldn't restrict ourselves to the US when it comes to finding good ideas to steal. With cities becoming increasingly congested, bike share networks provide an affordable and sustainable public transportation alternative. First bike share program in the world started in 1985 in Amsterdam. Now Washington, Boston, and Denver have all paved the way in the US. In New York, City is a proud sponsor of City Bike, which launched over a year ago and has already generated more than 9 million trips and signed up over 100,000 members. It has truly become part of the urban fabric in a very short time. More broadly, we're also playing a role in the exchange of ideas through a collaboration with Living Cities and the Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. It's called the City Accelerator. Launched in March, the Accelerator will provide $3 million in grants to 9 cities to pilot innovative ideas. We're encouraging risk-taking. Some of the ideas may work, some of them won't. My old boss, Mayor Bloomberg, would say the difference between having vision and being pig-headed is only in the results. But the ones that will be worthy of replicating, the Accelerator will help cities across the country to adopt. The second idea I'd like to discuss is the role of private sector in helping cities to innovate and take risks. Public-private partnerships have accomplished many great things, but to me, the real value of private sector involvement is not measured in dollars. It's about having the flexibility and the freedom to try new ideas. Risk-taking and innovation in the private sector risk-taking and innovation is more acceptable in the private sector. The scrutiny on taxpayer dollars, while important to the public fisc, does make governments risk-averse. Would the government's loss on Solandra have been so controversial if the same amount had been invested privately? Probably not. That may not be entirely fair, but that's the way it is. Since risk-taking by cities needs to be catalyzed, not constrained, private sector involvement is essential for cities to innovate. As nation's mayors, you are clearly accountable for providing services and solving problems. But as someone who now works in the private sector, I can tell you, you're not in this alone. Cities that are willing to adopt new ideas and work in collaboration with private sector, nonprofits, universities will succeed. Cities are perfect incubators for this collaboration. As economic, cultural, and academic hubs, cities attract talent, creativity, leading to new ideas and innovation. Take education. I know we all agree that improving urban education is one of the most important challenges our country faces. Charter schools are one example of an urban innovation supported by private investment. The first charter school, City Academy, opened in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1992 with support from its mayor. Today, there are more than 6,000 charter schools across the country, serving about 2 million students. Mayor Johnson led the charge in the expansion of St. Hope, a public charter school system in Sacramento, which paved the way for the St. Hope Leadership Academy in Harlem. Charter schools aren't the only answer to improving education, but they provide an opportunity for innovative leaders to try new things to prepare kids for success. The idea had to start somewhere. Mayors were willing to try, and the private sector was willing to provide funding. We supported another innovative idea for public schools in San Francisco, the award-winning kindergarten to college program. All kindergarten students receive a college savings account seeded by a $50 opening deposit. It provides a jump start to college education and gives students direct experience with a bank account, creating a foundation for financial literacy. Why do we care about all this as a bank? Because we used to talk about our company being in 100 countries. Now we talk about it as being in 700 cities with a focus on those that are growing the fastest. We know that our firm, our clients, will rise and fall with them, so we are investing in your success. In the United States, Citi is a leading affordable housing lender and municipal underwriter. We take pride in helping building housing, schools, water mains. We lent $27 billion to small businesses over the last 3 years. And we also use our philanthropic dollars to support the economic strength of our nation's cities. We just announced a new initiative to combat youth unemployment. The unemployment rate for 16 to 24-year-olds is 15%. It's not realistic to expect a bank to directly create jobs, and it's clearly beyond the federal government's control as well. So we approach the challenge a little bit differently, trying to close the job skills mismatch so young people are capable of landing the jobs which actually are out there. In March, the City Foundation launched a new program called Pathways to Progress, a $50 million investment over 3 years. The focus of the program is to prepare 100,000 young people in 10 cities across the United States to succeed in the 21st century job market. Partnering with community organizations, we focus on 3 areas. First, to provide opportunities for youth to volunteer and develop workplace skills. Second, provide meaningful summer job employment. And third, entrepreneurial experience combined with financial education. I'm proud to say that mayors in all 10 cities are lending their support to ensure this program's impact. While there are many challenges facing this country, I'm confident in the future because the mayors are the ones driving change from the ground up. You obviously carry a lot of weight on your shoulders to enhance the quality of life in your cities, and I want you to know you're not in this alone. You have an opportunity to steal from each other, you have an opportunity to tap into the private sector and take all of your cities to the next level and enjoy the network which you're so proudly a part of. Thank you so much for having us and wish you the best of luck in the rest of the conference.
Good job.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. All right, mayors, yesterday we talked a lot about Cities 3.0, and this is another example that Edward talked about. We have to have public-private partnerships in different ways. It's not just about us as government doing one thing on our own. If we can find the creative, collaborative ways to work in unison with the private companies, that's what we mean by the public-private partnerships going forward. A great example, and thank you for your leadership on this as well. At our last winter meeting, our past president, Mayor Smith, started a tradition about inviting new mayors to bring greetings, which I thought was a great idea, and I want to continue it. This particular mayor that I'm going to bring up was supposed to be with us, but unfortunately, he had a snowstorm and made a wise decision to stay at home and to take care of his city. Mayor Walsh is a leader amongst mayors. He has done incredible work in Boston. He understands the public sector, the private sector. He gets business, he gets labor. I got a chance to visit with him recently, and he took me on a tour of Washington. We visited a fire station, and I can just tell you he's beloved in a real way, even though the Boston Red Sox aren't doing so well this year. Let's give a round of applause for our mayor of Boston, Mayor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson, and I want to congratulate you on a well-deserved presidency of this historic body. I'm glad you're running point for American mayors now and not against the Celtics, I can tell you that. It was never an easy night at the Boston Garden when KJ came to town. It's great to be on the same team. One thing I'm finding very quickly about the conference is with the Boston sports, I certainly have to go back home and talk to the Red Sox, the Patriots, the Bruins, and the Celtics to raise their bar here, because I know that Mayor Hancock was, I heard through the grapevine, was at a forum earlier today talking a little smack about my Patriots. So we'll take care of that in October this year, so I'm not worried about it. You know, I'm thrilled to be here today to address you as the mayor of the city of Boston. When I took office in January, I became the first new mayor in our city in 20 years. At my inauguration, I told the people of Boston that we were in this together. Every neighborhood, every race, every religion, every man, every woman, every child. And that's true for all Americans and true for all of our cities. To me, that's what this conference is all about. As mayors, we are tackling the hardest challenges that face the nation. Pulling together is the only way forward. Boston has a strong leadership in the United States Conference of Mayors. My predecessor, Tom Menino, held the presidency in 2002. His predecessor, Ray Flynn, did the same in 1991. John Hines held it in 1955, and James Michael Curley was the second president ever of the United States Conference of Mayors back in 1933. One of the first things I did when I took office in January was to install Mayor Curley's desk in my office to remind me that as mayor, I belong to a proud history. And now it will remind me that mayors make history when we work together. That's why I'm determined to continue this tradition of leadership in the United States Conference of Mayors. The kind of collaboration that happens here is good for my city, and it's good for all cities. And it's why I've made regional, national, and even global collaboration central to all of my policies. For the first time in Boston, we are taking a regional approach to economic development. We are working with mayors like Joe Sullivan in Braintree, Massachusetts. We formed a life science corridor to promote one of our Greater Boston's leading industries. We understand that research, the talent, and the infrastructure that feeds the industry are to spread across the metro region. To grow jobs, pulling together is the only way forward. In public safety, we are confronting the fact that criminals take advantage of jurisdictional borders. That's why they traffic illegal weapons, illegal guns, illegal drugs, and even human beings. Working with mayors in the region, we convened our first ever New England Gun Trafficking Summit. We forged the data sharing agreements that will help us suppress this deadly trade. And with mayors like Ed Murray of Seattle, we joined Demand Abolition, Ambassador Swanee Hunt's movement to stop human trafficking, to protect the vulnerable and to make our communities safer. Pulling together is really the only way forward. And on the environment, we have joined cities up and down the eastern seaboard and all around the world to share strategies, foster resilience, and slowing down climate change. When it comes to protecting the planet we share, pulling together is truly the only way forward. So I come to this conference understanding the necessities of inter-city collaboration, and I come here understanding the opportunity what this conference presents, to take collaboration at a transformative level. This weekend, I'm proposing alliances to combat addiction, reduce gun violence, to end human trafficking, and I'll be joining conversations on early childhood education, immigration reform, and income inequality. Naturally, we won't agree on every little thing, but as mayors, standing on the front lines of these challenges, we will agree on this. We need to come together and we need to act. To quote John F. Kennedy, we are not seeking the Republican answer or the Democratic answers. We are seeking the right answers. So forget ideology, forget rhetoric, put politics aside. Pulling together, we will move our city and our nation forward. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. I look forward to meeting and working with each and every one of you in these days and months and years ahead. Thank you very much.
Just so the mayors know, Mayor Walsh may be a rookie mayor, but I will tell you, he's reached out on a number of occasions and said, put me in the game. I want to get involved. And that's what we're asking every mayor in here. Find your place in this organization. Pick an issue that's really important to you if you haven't already. And that's what I just want to thank Mayor Walsh for doing. He said, it doesn't matter if it's education or environment, affordable housing, anything that's important that you think Boston can lend a voice, I'm willing to do it. So Mayor, again, thank you for your leadership. Our next speaker is Lee Hirsch, director of the award-winning documentary film called Bully. He's the founder and president of the Bully Project. It's a social action campaign inspired by the film. Together, they have sparked a national movement to stop bullying. This project strives to transform kids' lives and change the culture of bullying into one of empathy and action. When kids can't feel safe at school, they can't learn. Proudly, our conference has taken a stand on improving public education through policy advocacy around teacher effectiveness and many other issues. I think it's time for us to look at bullying not only as an act of safety, but an issue that relates to educational excellence. Lee is here today to talk about an exciting new partnership between the U.S. Conference of Mayors and the Bully Project, a collective effort to create safe, caring, respectable schools and communities and to end bullying in our country. And we're excited to have a new partnership with our Houston Mayor, Anise Parker, who's agreed to lead our efforts. So Mayor Parker, thank you for your leadership. We as an organization are looking forward to collaborating with Lee and his organization. So at this time, I'd like Lee to come up and join me. And if Mayor Parker wouldn't mind coming up, and we'll take a photo all together. Mayor Parker and Lee.
Thank you. Thank you.
So for mayors, you'll see these on your tables. And we're going to encourage you all, if you think this is an important issue, to fill it out and sign it before you leave today. I asked Mayor Parker to come and share a few words before Lee comes to the podium. Mayor Parker?
Thank you, President Johnson. You know, there are many reasons kids don't succeed in school. And let's face it, there will always be bullies. But the good news is that bullying can be prevented. You can protect kids against bullying, and you can inoculate kids against bullying. And even better news is you don't have to do it by yourself. Thanks to the mayor's campaign to end bullying, you can have access to information, advice, resources that can help you jumpstart a program in your community or bring those programs that are already active in your community together with a renewed focus and renewed energy. I would encourage everybody to fill out the form, agree to be part of this initiative, commit to having your people, and I know how this works, having your people work to create a program in October so that we can all stand up in October to stare down bullying. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. Sometimes I feel like, having once been a horribly bullied kid, I feel like the luckiest kid in the world. And to have this opportunity to work with the U.S. Conference of Mayors to send such a message is truly a once-in-a-lifetime moment for me, and I think for the movement to end bullying, both in the United States and globally. And so I am so full of hope today. I'm so full of hope that our nation is ready to turn the corner on bullying, and I truly, truly, truly believe that. Over 140,000 kids will not go to school every single day because they are simply too afraid to show up, to get on the bus. Well, they're certainly not learning. They're certainly not helping us solve some of the broader problems we have in education. So there's this bigger impact to bullying. And I think that with that comes tragedies and things that we've all grieved and mourned, and we just simply have to act. Since our film has come out and through the work that we've done together with hundreds of partners, over 3.5 million students have engaged with our curriculum and viewed the film Bully together with their educators. And in many cases, it was mayors that led the way. In Los Angeles, Mayor Villaraigosa. In San Francisco, Mayor Lee, and in so many of our other cities. And so I'm going to show just a very brief video that gives you a feeling of the Bully Project and a taste of what happened in Los Angeles. So if we could roll that, thank you.
An extraordinary documentary called Bully captured something we hear about but rarely actually see: how kids treat each other, really treat each other, when adults aren't around. Now, you don't have to have seen the film Bully to understand the plight of the characters in it, but after tonight, you might just want to.
The last couple of days, we had heard that Tyler had his head shoved into a wall locker. They said he is a geek.
My concern is that you were making someone feel so uncomfortable that they didn't want to be in school.
I feel kind of nervous going to school because I like learning, but I have trouble with making friends.
They said he is a geek. Some kids had told him that he is worthless, to go hang himself. And I think he got to the point where enough was enough.
Tonight, a tragic situation.
A Perkins boy, just 11 years old, believed to have been desperate enough to take his own life.
This is an awfully complicated and difficult issue.
Kids will be kids, boys will be boys. They're just cruel at this age.
Here what we get is nothing's wrong. We didn't do anything. Everything's fine.
They punch me, strangle me, take things from me, sit on me.
Give it to him hard!
He's not safe on that bus.
I've been on that bus. They are just as good as gold.
My voice is not going to fall silent. I will go to my grave until a difference is made.
Thousands of LAUSD students are attending a special screening today of the new documentary, Bully.
The message for these 6,500 LAUSD students is that bullying can happen to all.
So this is an opportunity for all of us to say yes to protecting our kids and making schools and neighborhoods safer for our kids.
As the mayor, what can you do to prevent bullying?
You are just cute as a button. My God, you have better questions than some of the adults.
I was so excited when I learned that Mayor Villagrosa would be sitting next to me because we had put this video together. Look, I think like drinking and driving, our attitudes, drinking and driving, seatbelts, attitudes against some of these big social ills can change and do change. And that shift in attitude is so critical in this battle, in this effort to end bullying, when we change hearts and minds. Now is the time to empower our youth, our educators, our leaders, to give them evidence-based tools to create safer schools. Having been doing this work, seeing these millions of students like you saw in the video, we believe that youth across America are stepping up and saying that we want to change this narrative. We want to be the generation that rises up and ends bullying. And I think together with this campaign, we really have the opportunity to reach and impact millions of students and educators, and with your help, truly make history, city by city, mayor by mayor. And I really cannot thank all of you enough for this opportunity. To make it work, on your tables you will find these forms. If you've got it, please, if you're a mayor, people have been handing it to me all day, fill it in, sign up, put it up in the air. There's volunteers all over the room which will collect your forms. So we know that your city is in. I see one there. I feel like I could be an auctioneer. Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In closing, I just want to say a lot's been said about, the true power that mayors have, the ability to make things happen in this world where so much is stalled at the federal level. In the world of bullying prevention, some really important, critical pieces of legislation have not moved forward. And so really, the work has to be done at the local level. And wouldn't it be great if a year from now, when we come back together, we get to look back on this campaign and really reflect on the changes that are made in our communities. The programs that have begun this year as a result of this campaign that will roll out year after year and strengthen with time. Thank you so, so much for your time, for your support and leadership. And we're here over the course of the rest of the conference if you have any questions. Thank you again.
Awesome job.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, mayors. Again, if you have them and you haven't, there's a lot of folks. Hold them up, and we'll get folks to you really quickly. Some people in the back, a couple mayors up here in the front. Harvard, over here, Harvard. All right, any other mayors who have it? All right, great. A couple in the back as well. So it's my pleasure we got a mayor up here in the front, Harvard up here in the front, on the dais too. On the dais, Mayor. There you go. So it's my pleasure to welcome back to the conference my dear friend and a past president. When he was here as a president in this organization, he made education a top priority. And he didn't just say it. He went back to a city in Los Angeles and he started something called partnership schools, where he negotiated an agreement with the union at the local level that would allow him to run some of the most ineffective schools in Los Angeles. In a very short period of time, those schools right now are some of the highest performing schools in Los Angeles. So for him to come back today and share for a few moments about an area that's really, really important to him means a lot to all of us as mayors, because I think we're following in your footsteps. The other thing that's important to know about this mayor, he's a Democrat, but he understood the importance of reaching across the aisle and having real conversations around education, around transportation. He knew that in order to get things done, it can't just be one party with one ideology. And that was a great example for me as a young mayor. Mayors in the room, I'd like you to stand on your feet as we welcome our past president, Antonio Villaraigosa.
You're the best. Love you. You're the best. You're the best.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You know, I feel like a proud father. I got a text yesterday that said, thank you. Gave my inaugural presidency speech today. Owe it all to you. And when I walked in, Mayor Johnson said, well, you didn't respond to my text. I'm responding to your text. I couldn't be prouder to have watched Mayor Johnson as mayor taking on one of the toughest issues facing all of us, to take it on in a way that has ruffled feathers, but to take it on, he's done. And to watch him today, just today, Secretary Duncan, talking about preschool. We're talking about the importance of educating our kids as early as we can. We just heard from Mr. Hirsch about the bully campaign, the mayor's anti-bully campaign, an important effort to address the scourge of bullying in our schools. And so to watch what you've done, because the resolutions that we did under my presidency, we did because you came to me and said, you know, we got to address this issue of seniority. We've got to look at the issue of tenure. We got to fix the broken schools. Mayor's got to get involved. So I want to acknowledge and thank you. That standing ovation was as much for you as it was for me. And I couldn't be more excited. And that's why I wanted to be here today. You know, I joked that I've ridden into the sunset for a bit. The horse will come back. But for now, I've spent most of my time not giving speeches, except if they're out of the country. I spend most of my time reflecting. I'm working on a number of things, including working at USC, Harvard. But my passion, and I think the most important thing facing the nation, is this issue of public education. So I couldn't be happier and prouder to be with all of you today. I know that you are the most accountable public officials in the country. I know what it's like to be a mayor. There's no hiding at the local level. You're on the front lines. Every single day you take the heat. Every day you have to prove yourself. It's not an easy job, but it's a job that I loved, and I know you do too. And to add another duty and a responsibility with all of the responsibilities that you have as mayor, you know, not something that you wake up in the morning and raise your hand and say, I want to do it. But I'm here today to say you have to do it. I'm here today to say, if we don't do it, then who will? This issue is the most critical issue facing the nation right now. I tell people, and you all know it, it's the economic issue facing our time. You know, in a world of intellectual capital, if you can't read and write, you're not going to be working. Or if you do, you're not going to be making a wage to live on. It's the civil rights issue of our time, because we know that the achievement gap, which we'll talk about, is getting wider and wider. It's a democracy issue of our time. If people can't read and write, they can't debate the serious issues facing our cities and our nation. And so I'm here to say the change is needed, that change is coming, and that mayors must lead the way. Now, we all know that America needs to get better. We're falling behind other countries on international tests. Today, we're 31st in math. We're 24th in science. We're 21st in reading. And every year, we're dropping down farther and farther. Today, 1 in 5 young people doesn't graduate from high school. And of course, I don't have to tell you, the numbers are even worse for communities of color. 1 in 4 Latinos and nearly 1 in 3 African Americans don't get a high school diploma. They're condemned to second-class lives with low-wage jobs that can't support a family. For too many, it means a life of crime, prison, or death. Their only hope, our only hope, is education. Now, we've known this for many years, yet despite our best efforts, we struggle to give these children the education they need. They face too many barriers, and we've heard this again and again. We know they face barriers. We know these kids have an uphill road to climb. But that can't be an excuse. I tell people when they tell me, well, sir, you don't understand. These kids are English language learners. These kids are first generation to graduate from high school or go to college. These kids are foster kids. These kids don't have a daddy. Well, you're describing me. Maybe not the foster part, but you're describing me. You're describing many of us. We can read and write. The idea that you can't make it just because you start out here is unacceptable to our way of life and to the America we've known. They'll say that these schools are underfunded, and they are. The teachers are underprepared, the parents are overwhelmed, and that their lives are so unstable that they can't begin to focus on learning. They're just trying to survive. Now, you've seen the stories in your own communities: gang violence, teenage pregnancy, bullying, drug use, kids dropping out. Every mayor in America knows this story by heart. But there's another story, and it doesn't get as much pickup with all the negative media, but it's far more important to your future and mine. In this story, parents and children value education. You know, Michelle Rhee's in the room today. Kevin Johnson's wife, and better half, by the way. No doubt. This is a woman who had the courage to challenge the paradigm in Washington, D.C. public schools. This is a woman who had the courage to stand up and said, our kids will learn, our kids can thrive, our kids can do better. Now, she knows this story. In this story, parents and children value education. They attend rigorous schools that set high standards. They talk about college from the first day that they arrive in kindergarten. The children stay on grade. The schools are clean and safe, and young people graduate and go to college. Kevin mentioned, Mayor Johnson, our president, mentioned that I took over schools. I took over 22 schools, 16,000 kids. I took over the schools of Watts. I took over the schools on the east side and in downtown. These were the lowest performing schools in the city, by far. Schools with a 500 API for the California people on the Academic Performance Index. 800 is a successful school. So 500, you're not only failing, you're really failing. took over a school, Markham, most violent middle school in LA. 120 kids arrested on campus in the year before we took it over. Over the last 5 years, this system would be the most improved in the state if we were a school district. And we got the same thick collective bargaining agreement, no flexibility, but we've been able to make some changes, and we'll share with you how and why. Now, somewhere in one of your cities, graduates just walked across a stage and received a diploma. For some, it was the first. They were the first in their family. Graduates like Carlene Irvin. Carlene grew up in foster care in Oakland, California. She worked hard in school. Her teachers supported her, and now she's headed to Yale University this fall. Urban Prep is a network of schools in Chicago helping students defy the national statistics. Every urban prep student is male, African American, and living in one of the city's toughest neighborhoods. Every morning, these young men come to school in a jacket and a tie, and together they recite these words: "We are college-bound, we make no excuses." After 4 years of saying these words, they've made it into reality. For the 5th year in a row, 100% of urban prep graduates are accepted to college, nearly all of them on scholarships. Today, student achievement, high school graduation, and college enrollment are at an all-time high, especially among students of color. But it's not high enough. It's getting better, and it's getting better because people like Michelle Rhee are demanding it. It's getting better because parents and adults are setting aside their differences, working together, and putting children first. Some of these schools are charter schools, like Yes Prep, here in Texas. Some of them are traditional schools. Unfortunately, there's still too many schools that have not learned the lessons of change and that are holding us all back. For whatever reason, the adults in the system just don't want to change, and families are voting with their feet. So today, more than 9 million school-aged children whose parents have opted out of the traditional public school system for private schools, home schools, or charter schools. Another million are on the charter school waiting list. Now, some of you know that I'm a former labor leader. I was a president of my local, a 5-state local, enforcing our civil rights laws. I worked for SEIU. I worked for the teachers union for 8 years. I believe in workers' right to collective bargaining, always have. I think it's a hallmark of any democratic country. But in this age of income inequality, where 20% of the income and 40% of the wealth goes to just the top 1%, I believe the teachers need to be paid more, a lot more. But when it comes to education, our union friends have to be better partners in improving our schools. They need to recognize that good wages and benefits are not the only bottom line. Student achievement is what counts. Results matter. We can debate how to measure success, and we will debate that. And we can hold ourselves accountable to get there. But we can't abdicate our responsibility to ensure that all children are learning. We have a responsibility to fight for our children. We also have a responsibility to taxpayers to give them a quality education so we don't have to pay the social costs down the road from welfare to crime and prisons. You know, I hear all the time, and some of you know I used to be Speaker of the California State Assembly. They'll say, well, California's 49th in per pupil spending. You know, what you don't understand is we've got to make it a priority. When you went to school, Antonio, California was in the top 5 in per pupil spending, and we had the best schools in the country. And I said, I agree. We've got to move to the top. But I've said to them, you're never going to get people to move to the top if you can't show them that you're doing with the more with what you got. And that can only come through accountability. Now, most mayors don't control their school system. I wanted that control, as some of you know. I fought hard for it, but I lost that battle in the courts. But that didn't stop us from speaking out on these issues, whether it's pensions we can't afford, quality charters our parents want, or a longer school day that Mayor Rahm Emanuel and others have fought for their kids. As mayor, you're the voice of your community, and your community deserves to be heard. You can't just leave this to the school board. You know, it's interesting, I tried to get rid of our school board and appoint one. And, you know, voters overwhelmingly said they wanted a school board. You know what the percentage of people that are voting in my city for school board? Sometimes as low as 3%, as high as 7%. They want it, but they don't participate. When 7% of the people are voting to get you elected, guess what? You don't think that you're accountable, except for the people who got you elected. Who are the people that get you elected? The people that write checks. And that's why it was important for us to get involved in school board elections. It was important for us to say, we've got to have a broader group of people writing checks. If that's all you'll listen to, you got to listen to parents. You got to listen to people who have another view about what we need to do to improve our schools. So, look, future is tied to the quality of public education you provide. If the bureaucracy is not doing the job, you need to say something. I'm not just talking about the central office. I'm talking about the entire system, from janitor to superintendent, the union steward to management rep. They're all part of the system, and they have a responsibility to children first and foremost. But politicians also have a responsibility, whether it's providing the funding at the state and local level or providing other essential services like public safety and health care. Elected officials can build partnerships with business and with nonprofits. You're already getting involved behind this notion that mayors can get involved around the issue of bullying. We're standing up as an organization to say every one of our kids, every single one of our kids ought to have a preschool, just like we did, just like our kids did. We can do that. We can bridge the differences in ways that people inside the system can't. Now, today, like so much about American politics, education has become polarized. Nobody wants to compromise or work with the guys across the aisle. I couldn't be prouder of this organization. When 80% Democrat, 20% Republican, but we always try to figure it out. Whether it's been seniority or tenure or building hospitals and roads in Baghdad and Kandahar and not in Baltimore and Kansas City, whatever the issue's been, immigration reform, we've tried to figure it out. We've got to get involved in this issue of education because they're not figuring it out. We as mayors can help them do it. But as I leave you, you have to help people understand the facts. Test scores are only one of many factors in a teacher's evaluation. Nobody makes it all about test scores. It's mostly about principal observation. But let's remember how this debate started. In the past, 97% of teachers in America were rated satisfactory. There was no distinction between really great teachers, teachers in the middle, and teachers at the bottom who were really struggling. And this was not the teacher's fault. You see, the principals and the administrators didn't want to do the hard work of evaluating their teachers, and they didn't want to stir up the hornet's nest. So management and labor made a little sweetheart deal and declared everyone satisfactory. The adults won, but our kids lost. Now states are creating systems that distinguish between great teachers from good, good from not so good, and not so good from really, really bad. And that means we can celebrate great teachers, we can help others get better, and for the small percentage who just can't or won't improve, we can counsel them out of the field. Teaching is a tough job. It's not for everyone. But if we don't have a real system of evaluation, we can't begin to solve the problems in our schools. Some on the left also don't like charters. And I like my friends on the left, but I don't agree with them. You see, some of them are performing brilliantly, and more than 1 million children are on charter school waiting lists. Parents want options. They want choices. Why should we deny them if they're getting good results? At the same time, we shouldn't be supporting charters if they're not performing. We're not here to help charter operators make money. We're here to help children learn. That's our bottom line. That's the middle ground. You probably also read about the recent legal decision in California that struck down the state's tenure and seniority laws. You, Mr. Johnson, were the person who put that resolution through me, but we did it together, but you knocked on my door and said we ought to do it. I got behind the Reed case in my own schools. The Reed case said, hey, my schools in Watts are losing 55% of our teachers during layoffs. The rest of the city's losing 3%. This is a civil rights issue. All my kids in the poorest schools are losing all their teachers. Went to the teachers union, went to the school district. They said that was the education code. I said, oh yeah? I'm going to court. We're going to change the education code because the Constitution is every bit as important as the education code. We got to protect these kids. And we did. We won. But it was a limited win. It was only for 45 schools. So what happened? Group of people, civil rights leaders, and that's the difference. We're now beginning to bring the civil rights community. We brought the Urban League, my friend. You had the vision. You understood. I'm not going to let this be a jobs blackmail issue. I'm going to get involved with my kids. Urban League got behind us. So we got the civil rights community, and they said, we're going to sue on seniority and tenure all across the board. Imagine this. And I know if my friend and brother Eric Garcetti, our mayor from Los Angeles, is here. He might not be, but if he is, I know he would not have liked if I had a third term, and he knows that I chose not to have one because I could have extended term limits and didn't for the mayor. We did it for the council. But imagine if I had run a third term and said, vote for me. I've been here the longest. You think that's going to work? Well, that's how decisions are getting made in our schools today. I've been here the longest, so I should have this class. I've been here the longest, so I should have this school. I've been here the longest, so I don't have to have these kids. We can't make decisions like that. We got to say, who's the best? You probably read about this decision. It's exciting. I tried to reform these laws, as I said, but I was blocked, and now the courts say it must be done because it violates our children's constitutional rights. The people behind the lawsuit will be filing similar suits all across the country. So it's coming to your town next. This is a moment of truth for teachers union. Change is coming and they need to be on the train. They should be leading the change. But you can get behind it in your city, in your state. Why? We've got to have a conversation. No one is saying that we have to, there's always a middle ground. It doesn't have to be completely eliminated. But it can't be the ultimate decider for everything that happens in our schools. We got to put kids first. Their interests got to be what matters most. Before this bill, in California, you had 18 months to get tenure. 18 months. And then you had it forever. We tried, Kevin Johnson and I, and some of the mayors, I think Ashley Swearingen, some of the mayors of California got behind a bill. We had a pedophile in our school, one of our schools, in Alley Unified. We had a pedophile who got arrested, was going to be convicted, admitted that he did the thing, but we couldn't fire him because it takes a long time to fire him. So we had to pay a pedophile $40,000 to get him out of the system. We shouldn't have had to do that. So we went to the legislature and we said, we would like a bill to make it easier to fire pedophiles, to, people that sell drugs to kids, to the basic 3 or 4 kind of limited areas. They laughed us out of the legislature. Again and again. We're finally going to pass a moderate version of what we need, but this bill says, guess what? We're throwing the whole thing out. So I want to repeat. In a state with 300,000 teachers, last year, only a dozen, that's 12, over the past decade were let go for poor performance. We can do better. I believe in due process. I support due process, but this is ridiculous, and we need to fix it. Meanwhile, on the right, all respect to my friends on the right, you have the Tea Party claiming that the Common Core state standards are some kind of federal plot to nationalize the curriculum. Based on this blatant myth, they got 3 states to drop the standards. Now, here's the facts. The federal government didn't write the Common Core standards, doesn't mandate them, and doesn't improve them. Standards are set at the state level. And today, 42 states are moving forward with these standards. Our children will be better off because of them. So, don't give in to the politics. These kinds of fights between unions, reformers, and the Tea Party are turning off our parents. Survey after survey shows that parents don't want to be involved in that fighting. They want accountability. The law requires 1 reading test, 1 math test annually, and states must publish these results broken down by students' various demographic groups. That's all the law requires. Unfortunately, too many districts overtest. We can change that. We can find the middle ground, and we can fix our schools. You know, in ending, let me just say, as mayors, you share the responsibility for the quality of public education in your city, even if you don't control your schools or your school board. We need your voice and your leadership, and we need you to empower your parents. What I did in my schools, I said, you know, I'm pro-union. I've worked for unions for 15 years, so guess what? I'm going to have a parent union, and I created a parent union and a parent college because I want all my parents to go to college. So in that parent college, we teach our parents, you have rights, you have roles, and you have responsibilities. And we supported the parent trigger in California. The parent union with the parent revolution started in my schools. The parent trigger came out of that fight. Parent trigger was real simple. It said a majority of parents, if your schools are failing, they get to say, I want to change that. That's not a radical idea. It was opposed by the teachers union and virtually everybody else, but in the end, people saw the wisdom in that. We need accountability. We got to be accountable to parents. We got to be accountable to results. We got to change the paradigm. You know, my mother once told me when I walked in home one day, and you all know I had a colorful life, kicked out of school, dropped out of school, came in one night full of blood and a big fight, and Mom was traumatized. She saw me in the morning over my breakfast table, and she started to cry. She said, what is that? And it was another tattoo at the time. I've taken them off since then, but it was another tattoo, and I said, it's a tattoo. And my mother began to cry. And she said, you don't believe in you, but I believe in you. She said, you are destined for greatness and you don't even know it. Now, I don't know about the greatness part, and I scoffed at her when she said it, but I never forgot it. We got to get involved in these schools because we got to believe in these kids again. We've got to set the highest standards for them. We got to say, I believe in you. And when we do that, great things will happen. When you get involved in this effort, in the effort that this president is going to engage you in on a level that this organization has never done, I guarantee you, you're going to see results. You're going to see change. You're going to see improvement. And when you see those kids, first in their generation, poor as a church mouse, crossing that stage and getting that diploma of the high school and going to Yale or Johns Hopkins or any of the great schools or a community college, you're going to feel love in your heart. You're going to realize how important this issue is to your city, to our states, and to our nation. Thank you very much, everybody.
What a rocket. Love you, man. Love you, too. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Come on, Dallas. We can do a little better than that. All right, everybody. I think that put the context front and center for us. And I'm just thankful to all the mayors this morning that were part of the Secretary of Education and our Mayor Hancock. We had a very strong panel discussion on early childhood education, and all mayors in here said very strongly that we believe all children should have access to early preschool, early learning, that universal dynamic where everybody can have a chance to experience the American dream. And if we don't do that at an early age, the odds of kids being successful dramatically decrease. So again, to you mayors, thank you so much. And Mayor Villaraigosa, again, thank you for your leadership. I do want to make one exception to tenure, that normally what Antonio said is the longer you're here, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're good, except if you're Joe Riley over there on your left. That's the exception over there, Mayor Riley. Next on our agenda, we have a special partnership with the U.S. Conference of Mayors Retirement Readiness Award. Here to introduce that award is Columbia, South Carolina Mayor Steve Benjamin. Mayor, if you wouldn't mind coming up and doing what only you do. He's an advocate, he's on the advisory board, he's a trustee, a great leader in our organization. Mayor Benjamin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was talking to one of our employees recently, and he said he was retiring soon. He's going to take his wife to Italy for his 25th anniversary. And he said, on the 30th, I'm going to go back and get her. In his own comical way, he was telling me that he wasn't ready for retirement. He was not financially ready for retirement. And that's such an important issue that I wanted to make sure I have a chance to communicate.
That was a strange segue.
Was it good?
I don't know what that was.
I'm trying to hang out with this guy. I know. All the wives are looking at me sideways right now. Mine is not here, so I can get away with some of these jokes. The reality, guys, is that we have, and if you take nothing else away from this conversation, we have as mayors, every mayor raise your hand just for a second. You are a fiduciary. We have a fiduciary obligation to the men and women who serve our constituents to ensure that they are retirement ready, to make sure that their precious and limited assets are being invested properly in their individual long-term interests. Every one of our employees are different, and we have been able to, since 1978, be a leader in this endeavor. The U.S. Conference of Mayors was one of the original authors of the legislation that led to the creation of retirement programs for public employees. In 1978, the conference began our own retirement program, offering its own best-in-class defined contribution retirement program, commonly known as deferred compensation plan for cities and other municipal entities. The nation's mayors continue to task this conference, U.S. Conference of Mayors, with reviewing, monitoring, and updating this program as the needs of cities have changed over the last few decades, and as the marketplace also changed. In 2012, our conference made the biggest change since the program's inception, selecting Great West Financial, a fantastic partner, as the program's new provider, highlighting the need for plan transparency, for fiduciary education, consistent employee education, and also for reduced fees. Talk about reduced fees, some of you who may take the Wall Street Journal, it's interesting, it talks about the way in which an employee's very limited assets, again, can be invested, and whether or not, it's a great article just today, if you have a chance to read it. It talks about just an average employee, if their money is invested properly over a period of time, exactly how much of a difference, almost $300,000 difference, if it's invested the way that Great West can help us get this done. With a focus on improving retirement readiness and financial literacy for public employees across America, the U.S. Conference of Mayors has created a biannual leadership award to recognize mayors and cities that are implementing important and necessary changes to their retirement programs to achieve more secure retirement outcomes for our employees. The next award application will be available in September. Before we present the award, I want to challenge all of our mayors to a call to action. Between this meeting and the next meeting, hopefully as soon as we leave here, reach out to your HR staff or your finance directors when we get back to our cities. Get them engaged in this very important discussion. The conference, because of our great partnership with Great West, will do a quick review of your plans with the help of our retirement professionals at Great West. This will save our staffs a lot of time, will positively impact our employees' retirement accounts. It's just important, again, that we recognize our role as fiduciaries in making this happen. It's a great resource for our city attorneys as well. Today, we have the pleasure of recognizing one of our colleagues, Mayor Ardell Brady from the City of Rochester, for its 457 retirement program successes in assisting their employees in getting them ready for retirement readiness. Rochester's plan has a high participation rate, provides top-tier employee education, and can be used as a benchmark for all employees, whether that's in Augusta, Georgia, Mayor Davis, or all the way over here in Zapata, Texas. It can be used as a model, which is something that each and every one of us want to see. The U.S. Conference of Mayors would like to recognize and thank Mayor Brady, the City of Rochester's 457 committee members, the City of Rochester's Personnel Department, and the City of Rochester's employees for offering and participating in a best-in-class 457 retirement program. Mayor Brady has really raised the bar for the rest of us to assist our employees in meeting their retirement needs. The mayor's priorities include building upon health, hope, and hospitality, developing a compassionate city, and developing a memorandum of understanding for Criminal Justice Coordinating Commission that's going to work collaboratively in addressing the major criminal justice issues in his city. I think he's going to have to update his homepage to include providing the best retirement possible also for city employees. This is right in line with his mission and his passion to ensure that Rochester strives to be a great and prosperous city. Now here to present the award to Mayor Brady is Brent Neese, the Vice President of Government Markets for Great West Financial. Brent?
Thank you, Mayor Benjamin. Good morning. It is my great honor to be here today to present the United States Conference of Mayors Retirement Program Leadership Award for Excellence. This honor, as Mayor Benjamin said, is presented to a mayor whose city has shown outstanding excellence through planned due diligence, financial literacy programs, and improvements in the city's retirement plan. The City of Rochester is being recognized for providing its employees a high-tech, high-touch service model, low-cost, and great-performing investment options. Great West Financial is proud to partner with the City of Rochester, and we are committed to helping their employees reach a bright tomorrow where retirement is only the beginning. Recently, the city implemented a number of enhancements to the program, including enhanced planning tools and enhanced educational opportunities to improve financial literacy. Simultaneously, the city was able to reduce the fees paid by plan participants by more than $92,000 per year. That equates to an average savings per city employee of $270 each and every year. That's money that will compound and grow and help them accumulate the savings that they will need to live the retirement that they've always imagined. To ensure that all city employees took advantage of these positive changes, Great West partnered with the City of Rochester to implement a communication program throughout the city, which included group and individual meetings, and central to this communication strategy was the launching of a new, robust website featuring integrated educational resources and planning calculators. Their Retirement Income Control Panel provides an easy-to-access, easy-to-understand projected monthly income for city employees at retirement. As a result of these enhancements, participant engagement has increased throughout the city, and employees are now using these resources to create sustainable income during their life for their retirement years. In addition to honoring Mayor Brady today, I would like to take a moment to recognize Christine Salto, Benefits and Safety Administrator for the City of Rochester. Christine is a champion of the retirement program and has demonstrated her commitment to ensuring that the City of Rochester employees have the best retirement program available. I'd like to ask Mayor Brady to join me to accept this award. The award reads, the United States Conference of Mayors Leadership Award, the City of Rochester 457 Plan, Leading the Climb to a Bright Financial Future, 2014. Congratulations.
When you move
Thank you very much, and thanks to Mr. Neese and certainly Mayor Benjamin. In making this transition to Great West, it was very assuring to know that the U.S. Conference of Mayors had thoroughly vetted the process for aligning with Great West's proposal. It was with this assurance that I was able and comfortable in discussing this with our human resource and finance departments, and as well the city attorney, knowing that our employees and the city would benefit with this change. We admire the U.S. Conference of Mayors and Great West's cooperative teamwork during initial and follow-up meetings. Our HR department has pointed out to me that Great West's dedication to exceptional customer service was experienced throughout the entire transfer process. Employees received easy-to-understand materials in a timely manner with individual support. So U.S. Conference of Mayors and Great West's fiduciary oversight ensures our plans' investment options are continually monitored and best practices are followed. I believe this is a win-win-win success story. So on behalf of the City of Rochester and its employees, thank you very much for receiving this recognition.
Awesome. Thank you. Congrats, Mayor. Thank you very much. Mayor, another example of mayors getting involved, one of the good guys in our organization. Let's give one more round of applause for Mayor Braley. All right, let me now introduce another colleague from Minnesota. We are lucky to have a very special partnership between our Executive Director, Tom Cochran, and the National League of Cities Executive Director, Clarence Anthony. We as mayors around this country have to work together, and we've asked the mayor of St. Paul to come by and share for a few moments. He is the president of the National League of Cities. Let's give a round of applause for Mayor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. It's great to be here. First of all, what's that? Johnson? Mayor Johnson. Mayor Johnson? I don't know. He's toying with me here. You're throwing off the teleprompter here, Kevin. I want to just first of all give a shout out to my friend Ardell Brady from the city of Rochester. I know he loves the city of Rochester, but his grandchildren live in the city of St. Paul, so I know his real heart is in my city. But congratulations on your recognition and your leadership. I want to say first of all recognize Ralph Becker, Mayor of Salt Lake City, who is the first Vice President of the National League of Cities, as well as our Executive Director, Clarence Anthony, for his incredible leadership. But I have to tell you, Tom, that what happened last night at the Cowboy Stadium is really putting a hurt on the National League of Cities to try to come up with something like that at our conference in Austin. So I can't guarantee Leanne Rhymes or Bonnie Raitt or Lyle Lovett or even Cool and the gang, but Clarence Anthony has promised that he will sing for us down in Austin if you all join us for that. So we hope that we can see you. We come here from across the country to speak with one voice. As we tell our stories about how cities continue to thrive and tackle some of the nation's most difficult challenges. Cities are building healthy communities that are responsive to the needs of an interconnected world where residents compete not only with the businesses next door, but businesses on the other side of the planet. To compete with ever-changing and interconnected challenges, local governments are creatively harnessing technology, establishing partnerships with the business community and non-governmental organizations, increasing transparency and opening up our processes to become more efficient and more responsive to the needs of our residents and our workforces. All this while we continue to have a stalemate in Congress, leaving serious and pressing issues like the future of our nation's transportation infrastructure and our education system on hold. The lack of congressional action on these issues does not mean that the problems go away. Instead, it means local leaders must harness local creativity and leadership to find solutions to these challenges. We know that we do not have the luxury of doing nothing because we know firsthand that our cities and our residents deserve better. This means that even if we're not responsible for our school districts, we must ensure that every child not only has an opportunity to get an education that will put them on the path to post-secondary success, but they'll actually acquire the skills to thrive in a 21st century economy. We must not neglect the social and emotional skills critical to achieving this. Whether facing extraordinary trauma on the everyday challenges of life, all of our children and youth need the social and emotional preparation that enables them to engage in learning, effectively deal and learn from failures, work through their conflicts, and become confident, caring, and contributing citizens of our community. To do that, our education programs, both inside and out of school, must focus on the development of the whole child. This also means, if we're going to provide great services to our residents, that we address the issue of community resiliency. I can tell you for sure in the state of Minnesota and the city of St. Paul, we're recognizing the changes to our climate as we speak, with record floods. Our cities must adapt to climate change, preparing now for more powerful storms and less predictable weather patterns. It means opposing an immigration system that pulls families apart, holds back economic growth, and acts as a divisive force in our communities. It means investing in our local transportation systems to create local efficiencies, build local development, and expand economic growth while feeding into a national transportation system that is long overdue for repairs. Every day, we wake up thinking how we can push opportunity into every part of our communities. We work hard, we all work hard, to ensure that every resident has the ability to support their families and make sure the next generations have what they need to establish themselves in their communities. Even as we, as local leaders, look for solutions, we also recognize that if we are to provide economic stability and set a strong foundation for future growth, we must be able to draw upon federal-local partnerships that will help us effectively solve tough challenges. Federal support for local programs isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about aligning our strengths and resources toward a common aim. We need federal leaders that support the work already happening in cities and facilitate innovation across this country. A strong partnership also means respecting the needs of communities by establishing a feedback loop from local to federal that gives cities more say in the planning process. We need the federal government to listen to cities and have strong ties with City Hall before making decisions that will affect our communities. This will ensure projects achieve better outcomes, which is something we all want and need. In addition to transportation investments, immigration reform, community resilience, and education reform, we need the federal government to stop interfering with our ability to fund our local priorities with local dollars. We need the House to do what the Senate has done already and say yes to marketplace fairness. These are resources that we need to support public safety, better roads and bridges, innovation districts, and economic development projects, and a variety of other things that will make our communities strong. We also need marketplace fairness so our Main Street retailers are on a level playing field with their online counterparts. Let's all continue to work together to make this bill a reality, as well as the other common sense solutions that will make our communities better places to live and to work. I'm extremely proud of the partnership between the National League of Cities and the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and we've established these priorities and we'll work together to achieve them. United, we can make sure that the federal government understands our challenges and is responsive to the needs of our communities. Thank you for your partnership. Let's work together to build stronger communities across this nation.
You're good. What were you? I was just there. I know you. First vice president.
Mayor Coleman, we're honored and very much looking forward to working with you. And I know Tom is excited to be working with Clarence. So great partnership, Mayor speaking in one voice. So thank you very much for that. Mayors, we have a really cool partnership that we're going to announce right now. I want to thank, before I bring him up, Tom, you and your staff for working really hard with this particular company. When we talk about Cities 3.0, and we talk about mayors being leaders, where we're open source leaders, where we take ideas for everyone, this gets at the heart of it. So at this point in time, I want to say I'm honored to bring a dear friend of mine to the podium. His name is Blair Taylor. He joined Starbucks as the first Chief Community Officer in 2012. His role has expanded. He is now the Executive Vice President and Chief Community Officer. In this role, he's responsible for the company's culture, community, government relations, global responsibilities. He also serves as a member of the Starbucks Foundation Board of Directors. Most importantly, Blair is here to join me in announcing an innovative partnership, and I can't wait for him to tell you about it. Mayors, this is going to blow your socks off. Starbucks has been a leader in education. They've been a leader when it comes to opportunity youth. They've been a leader in terms of helping our veterans come back to our country and get employed in meaningful ways. You've heard enough from me. Let's give a round of applause for Blair Taylor.
Well, good morning, or is it afternoon? Good morning, right? Still morning? Kevin and his staff, Mayor Johnson and his staff gave me 5 words of admonition before I came up here. They said, be brief, Blair, be brief. So I'm going to try to live up to that. I must say, first and foremost, just a great thank you. Mayor Johnson, appreciate your leadership, appreciate your friendship. Tom and your staff have been incredible. Thank you, Tom, for all that you've done. And I want to just acknowledge all of the mayors in the room, including my former mayor who's left the dais now, but Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, who I worked so closely with during my time. I spent 25 years in Los Angeles before moving up to Seattle, where Mayor Murray, the sun does not shine all the time. Today, you've heard a lot about where mayors are in this country and the contributions that you're making. So I'm not going to go way into that in my comments. But what I do want to say is there is and must be an acknowledgement of mayors as the leaders in the 21st century in this country, as the innovators, as the gatekeepers of creativity, as the problem solvers. And I'd be remiss if I didn't, my team knows I'm a storyteller. I'd be remiss if I didn't throw a story in now about a very creative leader. And it was a story of a man who took his 5 sons aside one day and asked them directly, which one of you 5 pushed the outhouse into the river? And none of his sons came forward. And so the man proceeded to tell him the story about the great American leader, George Washington, and how when he chopped down the cherry tree, he ultimately admitted to his father that he'd done it, and he didn't get in any trouble. So the youngest son, who was the most creative and energized of the bunch, thought to himself, this is a big moment for me. I can show all my older brothers that I'm a leader, and I can tell my dad that I pushed the outhouse in the river and I won't get in any trouble. So he stepped forward. He said, Dad, I cannot tell a lie. I pushed the outhouse into the river. The father took the young son out back behind the shed, the wood shed, and gave him the worst spanking of his life. And when he was done, the little boy looked through teary eyes and said, Father, I don't understand. I thought the whole point of the George Washington story was that if I told you the truth, I wouldn't get in trouble. He said, George Washington chopped down the cherry tree and didn't get in trouble. His father looked at the boy and said, yes, son, but George Washington didn't chop down the cherry tree while his father was in it. So creative leadership comes from all places, all shapes, and all forms, and I just salute the mayors in this room for your leadership. And I'm here to just talk about, on a different sort of tip altogether, what Starbucks wants to do and accomplish with the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And it's really predicated upon 2 things. One, that the mayor has the power as a local CEO to get things done. And there's our recognition of that as a corporation. 2, it's predicated upon the power of unlocking the community itself, the nonprofits in the community, the citizens and residents of the community. All of that is a great source of power, and we need to figure out how to tap into it. And so today, I want to announce, along with Mayor Johnson, Tom, and the U.S. Conference of Mayors staff, an exciting initiative which we're calling Solution Cities. And we are announcing this first realm of Solution Cities with 5 mayors who will join us up on the stage very, very shortly. They are the mayor of Baltimore, who's already up here, Mayor Rawlings Blake, the mayor of Columbus, Ohio, Mayor Coleman, of course, Mayor Johnson from Sacramento, Mayor Stanton from Phoenix, and Mayor Dyer of Orlando. And this is the first iteration of something that we hope will be very, very exciting for all of the mayors in this room ultimately to participate in. And the idea with Solution Cities is if you look at what Starbucks is about, we are a convener. Conversations are happening in our stores all over the country and all over the world about problems in communities. Young people and old people alike are talking about how to change and transform their communities. Well, what Solution Cities will do is hold solutions-oriented dialogues between mayors and their constituents at our stores in the months ahead. And the idea behind this is actually pretty simple and yet somewhat profound. The dialogues are not to come and gripe. They're about solving problems in your community together. And in fact, we want to trim that down a little bit and focus on one of three swim lanes together. Solving issues around veterans, veterans-related issues. Solving issues around education. Or solving issues related to this great number of opportunity youth who are out there who are disengaged from our system. So those are the three swim lanes. What Starbucks is going to do to support this is not just offer the venue and support it through our venues, but we're going to also offer some financial support through a model that we call community stores, where a portion of the revenues and profits from those stores go out in support of a local nonprofit who will then be supporting the initiative. We're also going to turn our army of people loose to help support from a volunteer perspective. We're going to help elevate and share great ideas amongst these mayors and their constituents and cities so that great ideas can be elevated. We've heard that earlier this morning, that that's one of the things we need to do a better job at. And then finally, Starbucks is going to use our weight to help scale and replicate this model over time. We couldn't be more excited with this kind of a relationship because we think, and you heard a little bit of this earlier today, that the two prongs or the two pieces of the stool, legs of the stool, are not enough. To have mayors and their great communities come together isn't enough. We think the third leg of the stool is adding to the business sector. And we want to be a vibrant part of finding and locating problem-solving opportunities with mayors. So let me close by just saying we believe we can do more as a business, and we will. Starbucks is fundamentally committed to working with you in your cities. We're starting with these 5 cities. You'll hear more about what we're doing in those cities in the months ahead. But what you may not know is in those 3 swim lanes, as Mayor Johnson alluded to, we've already done a significant amount. For veterans, we've committed to hire thousands and thousands of veterans and their spouses. For Opportunity Youth, we formed an initiative to engage Opportunity Youth and put them on a pathway to jobs, working with our supply chain, which is 15,000 suppliers strong. And for education, for those of you who have been following Starbucks this week, we recently announced this week on Monday, with Secretary Duncan, by the way, in Washington, D.C. and in New York, we announced an initiative where we will send our workforce through to get a bachelor's degree and complete their bachelor's degrees tuition-free. It's the first of its kind in the history of American business. And by the way, what's interesting about that is there are no strings attached. You can go and get a degree from ASU online in any one of 40 different areas. If you want to be a nurse, we're going to support you. If you want to be an engineer, we're going to support you. It doesn't have to be something that relates back to our business. And when you finish your degree, you don't have to stay at Starbucks. Why are we doing that? Because we believe in investing in community, we believe in investing in our people, and we believe in building the workforce of the 21st century, whether they stay with Starbucks or not. So I'm thrilled, I'm excited, we're going to do great things, and we're looking forward to reporting back to you in the months ahead on our progress. Thank you to the mayors for all that you're doing for the betterment of this nation. It is deeply, deeply appreciated by all of us in the world of business. Thank you.
We're going to take a photo up there. All right, Mayor Coleman, can you come on up? Mayor Dwyer, come on up. Mayor Stanton, is Mayor Stanton here? Awesome. So the mayors, we're going to take a photo, but I want to put this in context so we get it. You're basically, what Starbucks is doing is they're partnering with 5 cities, and they're looking to do more cities. They're going to take a community store, a Starbucks store, and turn it into a community store where mayors go out and kind of hold office hours in the community. And we're going to talk to our constituents about ideas that make sense and how we improve our veteran relationships, opportunities for youth, and education. That store will have profits, and those profits will be split or shared with mayors, and we will be able to select nonprofits in our cities that are doing work in those 3 areas. This is a bold project. This is a great partnership for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and it will also be a job creator. So one more round of applause for these mayors and Starbucks. I'm not worried about the lipstick. No, we in the front. Oh, the star. That will hide the lipstick. All right, here we go.
Got it. All right. Good. Thanks. Drink up. All right. Awesome. Great job.
Hey, Blair, do you got any Oprah chai? Well, we're meeting again in January. Can you bring some Oprah chai tea? Okay, cool. All right. All right. Mayors, this is the last item of the day. I appreciate you guys hanging in here with us. We have a dear friend with us, and I'm really excited that he came into town. He was the president at the time, but decided to run for, as Tom Cochran said yesterday, a lower office. He's running for governor in the state of Arizona. And they have a work to right rule that if you're a sitting elected, you have to resign from your post. So he had to resign from the mayorship to run for governor. It allowed me to take over a little bit earlier. But he's a person that has been a huge friend of our organization and somebody that I think the state of Arizona desperately needs. He's one of those Republicans who's just practical in his thinking, and he wants to get things done. He works across the aisle very well. He moved up this organization really, really quickly. So at this point in time, I'd like to have Tom Cochran come on up and make the introduction to the video, and then you'll hear from our friend and still our president, Mayor Scott Smith.
Well, you know, I love all of you, but a few of you I like a little bit more than others. And one of the reasons I like Scott Smith is he makes me laugh. And every time I sit with him, and it's important to have people like that in your life. First time I met him, I was at a very, very formal meeting called the Mayor's Design Institute. It had probably 8 of the best architects in the nation. And some of you have attended those meetings. They're very serious. So we had, I will not name the mayor, they were trying to figure out how we could get food and produce and things down in her central city. And the architects were coming up with these ideas. So I leaned over to Scott and I said, why in the hell don't we just put a Walmart down there? And Scott raised his hand and said, well, Mr. Cochran thinks the way you can resolve this is to put a big box Walmart down there. And so he just shouted me out. But everything that he has done, I'm so pleased, and Mayor Johnson has stepped up and said we've got to continue certain things. I just want to mention one, and that is the task force and committee we had when Trade with America's Mayor Johnson, Mayor Garcetti we had a meeting here yesterday with Mayor Daley and some others, Mayor Smith, and I just want to let you know that initiative is going forth. And we got 49 new mayors here. And so when I met with Mayor Smith, he said, takeaways, 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 because he said the best thing a mayor can have when he comes to a meeting is something to take away. Innovative leaders is something that we have initiated under his leadership. And Mayor Johnson mentioned this morning, we want to bring new faces to the stage, and we'll continue to do that. So we wish him the best in this lower level job he's seeking. We wish him the best, and we hope, and also I just want to say hello to Kim. She's out in the audience, and all the family. So with that, we have a little video, and then we want to hear from our good friend, President last year from Las Vegas. We left with Scott Smith.
Washington would be well served to look and see how Democrats and Republicans alike at the local level work within the constraints of ideological differences to do the work of the people.
When we put in the hard work needed to find consensus, our power to affect change is greatly magnified.
And now I get the sense from a lot of mayors, Democrats and Republicans, you happen to be a Republican mayor, you know what, I can't rely on Washington anymore.
Well, we can't. I want to do things that make my city a better place, that make my state a better place. Mayors have to do things. We have to do business. We have to get things done.
Mesa's not unique. City after city has stories where our people have come together and have created a success. The innovations that drive this country begin with cities and begin with mayors. Mayors from around the country are a tremendous source of what I like to call innovations that lead. This organization was founded over 80 years ago on the ideas that mayors should share ideas with each other and with those in the federal government. We know now, as our founders knew then, that mayors have the best understanding of how policies impact people and their daily lives. So we must commit, as a nation, to competing globally through innovation. This is what we do best. Pursuing common sense and innovative efforts that will enable us to become energy independent, will enhance our energy security, and will confront the challenges of a changing climate. There are incredible opportunities for U.S. job creation through trade in the Americas and other parts of the world. So we must commit, as a nation, to competing globally through innovation. This is what we do best. Encouraging innovation means embracing new and energetic immigrants while at the same time creating laws around immigration that ensure our security, promote justice, public safety, and economic growth. So as mayors, we understand how important it is to help the nation expand our overseas market. I am committed to using all of my energy and every resource this conference has to fix our broken immigration system. We need these people at all levels of achievement, from unskilled to highly skilled. As long as people have something positive to offer and contribute, we should welcome them into our cities.
Enter the road warriors, the nation's mayors who want to shake up Congress. Can we rebuild America's roads in this economy?
The worst thing you can do to a mayor is to say you can't do something. There is a direct connection between infrastructure investment and economic opportunity. From the Erie Canal to the interstate highway system, America has built its economy on infrastructure. I remember distinctly walking into my first USCM meeting 5 years ago. Beginning with that first meeting, I met and gotten to know mayors from cities from throughout the country. This has been the most rewarding part of my experience with USCM. Every mayor here has something to learn from another mayor, and something to share with the rest of our organization, and most importantly, the country as a whole. That is the brilliance and the greatness of the U.S. Conference of Mayors.
As Mayor Smith has said, it's the brilliance of the organization, which means that every mayor should be given an opportunity to present his or her innovative best practices. Not only did he believe it, but when he became president, he acted on it. He demanded that there would be an opportunity for new mayors, in fact, all mayors, to bring to our sessions innovations that could be shared. His legacy is that this is now a part of the United States Conference of Mayors. And indeed, with less funding from federal and state levels, takeaways, sharing best practices, is our path to the future. His call for action upon being elected mayor was, build a better Mesa. When he became president of the Conference of Mayors, his call was to build a better America. We heed his call, and we look to the future knowing full well we can't build a better America if mayors don't share their ideas and work with their business community to strengthen our metro economies and thus the nation's economy. Thank you, Mayor Smith, for your leadership dedication, and service to this organization. We are a much stronger organization because you were our president.
Come on, mayors, let's get on our feet. Let's get on our feet for our president. Mayor Scott Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Thank you so very much. What a great opportunity and a privilege it is for me to stand before you again. And no, it is not true that I've been tasked with giving the second half of Antonio Villaraigosa's speech. You know, after 6 years as mayor and now nearly one glorious year as president of this organization, I count, as I said in the video, among my greatest privileges to be part of an organization such as this. As I came here today, I was at home. I felt the camaraderie. I saw many faces of people who have been my peers, my mentors, most of all my friends. Often my adversaries, but in a way that was always moving forward. I can tell you that I've learned a lot of things in the last 3 or 4 months as I've been on the campaign trail in a much different endeavor. And yes, it is different running statewide in a purely partisan election. I found out that there's 2 people that make a lot of money, political consultants and butchers. Why butchers? The red meat is going so fast in a political campaign and a partisan that is really in many ways disappointing for me. Because I remember my days being here together. Democrats, Republicans, independents, people of all stripes from all parts of the country, all backgrounds, and yet finding ways to come together, to talk about real solutions. Let me give you a little sense of what it's like being on a partisan campaign trail. We're at a forum. We're being asked to talk about some very serious things. This morning we've talked a lot about education. Here's a typical question. Mayor Smith, the education system in Arizona is underperforming, is in great need of repair, reform. Tell us how you will fix education in Arizona. You have 60 seconds. Unfortunately, that's as deep as many times our conversations are about very, very pressing and serious problems. And yet that's not the kind of conversation you'll find in this room. You're among people that are honest, that talk about real challenges and real solutions to real problems, that put aside their differences and find common place and find ways to solve issues. That's what it's like being a mayor. You know, we talk a lot about, and it's great to pat ourselves on the back, but I will tell you it is real. I'm very, very concerned about the future of our country, not because we can't solve problems, but because our political system is such that we refuse to actually discuss real solutions in a way that puts aside our difference. Mayors are different. We will do that. We have to do that. That is what we have to offer not only our communities, but our states and our nation. I'm trying something somewhat unique. In a highly partisan primary, I decided that my wife and I sat down and said, if we're going to run this campaign, we are going to be who we are. And who I am as a mayor. Who I am as somebody who made decisions, tough decisions. I don't back away from those. I found out that in a partisan world, those decisions sometimes upset the most highly partisan. I'm okay with that. And I find on the bright side that there are many people in our communities who are tired of the toxic nature of politics, who want real discussions, who want people who will stand up and go against the flow. And believe me, when there's 6 candidates on the stage and 5 of them are railing on Common Core and higher standards in education, you might think it might be a little bit lonely saying, I support higher standards. I support fixing a system. But I can tell you that when you have people come up afterwards and they say, thank you for standing up and for going against the flow, and I think to myself, I wouldn't have done it had I not had this experience, had I not been buoyed up by your support and your friendship. Thank you very much for this incredible opportunity, and thank you for this recognition. The one great thing is as we go through these change in leadership, I am completely confident that those who follow me, like those who preceded me, will be great examples for mayors. We'll stand up for cities. We'll stand up for what is right. It's a little bit unnerving when you have someone like Kevin Johnson follow you, but it's great. And it's also great knowing that you have someone like Stephanie Rawlings-Blake coming after Kevin. It was an awesome experience to be part of what we call the Neapolitan presidency. Antonio Villaraigosa, Michael Nutter, and yes, this fat, blonde, white guy from Arizona. And I think what it showed was what our nation is really about. The fact that we, from different parts of the country, different backgrounds, came together and formed a real bond and a real friendship and moved things forward and supported issues that truly do build a better America. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and this privilege to knowing you. Believe me, this friendship does not end. I hope to be back here many times and to be able to share in your camaraderie again, but also to work together to truly elevate our country. Thank you very much.
Mayor Smith, before you leave, I'd just like to make a request. Assuming all things go well in November, we want to invite you to the winter meeting in January because we want to talk about mayors and governors and how we can work effectively together. So as long as you're willing to make that commitment,
I'll put it on my schedule.
You'll put it on your schedule. One more round of applause for Mayor Smith. We are going to give him a recognition and appreciation of distinguished service to America's cities, to our favorite mayor, Mayor Smith. Joe, come on over, Joe. Joe, I get the legend. The dean, the dean. He's sitting over there. All right, following this session, we have standing committee meetings. They're in your agenda. We'll be back in this room. Goal to start promptly at 12:30, and we'll have the City Livability Awards. This concludes the morning session. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please exit the ballroom at this time. The wait staff needs to reset for lunch. So if you could help them out by picking everything up with you and exiting so we can change the room over. Thank you.